Mary been around for the longest. All the weed I get is the strongest. Bunch of roll up or humongous. We don't have no who. Smell like fruit in the fungus. We take away your numbers. 2 always been my favorite numbers. Going through the trees like the lumbers. Mary been around for the longest. All the weed I get is the strongest. Bunch of roll up or humongous. We don't have no hoovers among us. We smell like fruit in the fungus. We smoke cause we like the way it numbers. 2 always been my favorite numbers. Going through the trees like the lumbers. Blaze is still smoking, stay going in, cracking and still rolling. Here we go again, that one's still going. When we reel it in, past it to no one, unless we friends. The highest cloud up is where I like. Couch lock, that's where I be at. The whole bird club is in the sky, that's where we at. We only seem to congregate in spots where the weed at. Splashing in the hydro is deep to where my knees at. When I need more, I hit my nigga to see where he at. When I get more, that's when I relax. Swing and sober, still don't want to relapse. Splashing around in the drove to my kneecap. Loud we contained in jars like me at. I'll be higher than the mountains where the niggas ski at. No matter where I'm is, I can find where weed at. should have arthritis. What I put my blunts through, they end up the tightest. Hitting on my weed keeps me high as a bird. All day long, spin rolling up earth. Keep a couple Dutches and keep a couple Swishers. Break them both down, but the roll-up's different. To be in the air, I be up, hang gliding. Bird Club Stony, we be up, cloud sliding. Smoking till it's gone, then grab a new bag. Hydro in my blunt and wavy like a do-rag. Hoovers wanna smoke. Been told y'all niggas I just won't do that. Roll with Louisville and roll another dude that. Find another planet that I can zoom at. To spend my day chillin' where the moon at. End up couch lock, can't get my afternoon back. Put a cloud in the air so I can float around on it. Float around on it. Float around on it. Put a cloud in the air so I can float around on it. Float around on it. Float around on it. Put a cloud in the air so I can float around on it. Float around on it. Float around. So I can float around on it. Float around on it. Float around on it. Grip up my blunt like it's in the Cobra clutch. Once I start doing it, I just keep rolling up. Twisting all the time, it's non-stop twister. So much hydroponics, I should be a fisher. Breaking down my buds and throw them in the game. When I twist the white out, it is not the same. They both smoke crazy though, cause all I get is flame.
Fisher rolling up to Lil Marley and is a certified pot.
Float around on it, float around on it, float around on it. Put a cloud in the air so I can float around on it. Around on it, put a cloud in the air so I can float around on it. Float around on it.
What you're listening to right now is album 65. Came out 3 days ago. Dropping another one in on the first.
GeTtIn SmIzZlEd. Keine Sonne, die wir schauen, keine Brust hat mir gewarnt, in meine Kirche.
Getting ready to roll up one of my morning spliffs and shit. What's good, D? That just was dropped. This album 65. Yeah, this shit got some shit on there, bro.
I put a bunch of weed in the air, man. I'm in the sky, floating like an airplane. Crack open the blunt, everything that going near flame. The way I'm twisted up, my fingers look like I'm gang. I be hella smoke, looking just like a mackerel. Switch the sweets open and get smeared with dabadoo. Racing to the sky, I wake up and start my blaze. Hell weed. Then I roll with that shit up. I got weed. And I'm rolling that shit up. I got weed. And rolling that shit up. I got weed. And I'm rolling that shit up.
Keine Sonne, die wir schauen, keine Brust hat mir gewarnt.
Non-stop rolling up, I'm always twisting weed, smoking all day to get as high as I can be. Don't stop for coughing, I puff right through it. Hydroponics.
Oh, what's good, Wiz? Oh, shit, Wiz. I was hoping I was gonna catch you this morning. This shit is smooth and shit. We can jump in tomorrow because I wasn't able to grab no new blunts or nothing. So we'll make that shit work. Don't go in, bro.
I got weed. And I'm rolling that shit up. I got weed. And rolling that shit up. I got weed. And I'm rolling that shit up. Where the weed man at? 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 I've been smoking hella blunts, now my bag kinda low. I grab my phone, hit my homie up to let him know I can't get through. I'ma just send a text when my weed low. My anxiety hit, so I'm stressed. Going through my phone to see who I'll hit up next. Hit 3 more numbers. I just couldn't do, see if he can help. He can't. I still gotta find some more weed myself. Where the weed man at? 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 I done raced through a like a mountain, had more hydro than the fountain. Started off with 2 blunts, then I finished counting. Now my bag lower than it's ever been. I'm still trying to find my homie for my medicine. Until then, I can't even chill out. I wish those 95 weed pushers were still out. When weed blocks was a place to go to. I'm talking about smoking in the old school. When you could hit a block on any side of town. Pull up anytime it was going down. Now you gotta have a connect for the flame. So sometimes picking up weed ain't the same. You need to know a couple people in the game, or you be sitting waiting for the telephone to ring. Where the weed man at? 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 Where the weed man at?
Niggas with cannabis, then we gonna figure out what we gonna do for the day, bro. What we gonna get into. This is Niggas with Cannabis, produced by Cosfinger.
It's Cosfinger, baby. It's Cosfinger, baby.
Breaking down weed, putting it in the cigars. Green hella loud, singing like sitars. If you certified stony, you can get up high as we are. Blunt so big, gotta hold it like the guitar. Thank I'm on hydroponics like water skis are. If I pull out a bud, I make all of it fit. Hoovers can't smoke who you're arguing with. It's only loud weed that I be getting. If I roll a blunt up, it be hitting. Smoke it all the way down till I can't no longer breathe it in. I got weed plus dabs and keys that I'm squeezing in. I take a deep inhale when I leave it in. Once I light a blunt, I smoke it all the way to the end. I don't exhale until I gotta breathe. I always keep blunts and a lot of weed.
It's Cosfinger, baby.
Hydroponics, I be swimming like I'm in the pool. Every roll was how my habit is, that's just how I do. I just got the new bag, about to run through that too. Always on my upspeed, I stay rolling up weed, I throwing one. It's automatically doubling, can't do a single. Dabs and weed commingle. I get high with a little help from my friends, like Ringo. Cracking open switches, but I do my games differently. Even blunts I fuck up on the road still hit for me. In between sessions, I slide in the split for me. Hella high, I'm gliding on my new dippity. Just got my bag and I went through. Got the weed all slippery. Smoke in the room like it's filled up with hickory. Will I be okay after this? That's the mystery.
It's Cosfinger, baby.
All right, BC.
It's Cosfinger, baby.
Good, Mr. West. What's good, sir? All right, BC, bro. We We be doing all kinds of shit on the live feed shit. We right, you know what I mean? Watch weed memes, do pretty much anything, bro. One thing we consistently doing is we watching old anti uh drug propaganda from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. We're gonna look at this video over here, bro. This is 1970s anti-drug, anti-narcotic addiction educational film. I've never seen this, bro. I've never seen this, so I don't know what we about to actually be jumping into. I'm smoking. If y'all smoking, let's go ahead and smoke. Jump in. Let's this shit 30 minutes, bro. Let's put this shit on 1.5 times the speed. Let's go. North Carolina resources. All right, this is from a North Carolina joint. Okay, this is a Roger G. Whitley film. I don't know who Roger G. Whitley is. If y'all know who Roger G. Whitley is, up in the comment section. Lord, hold on. We can't. That's a little too fast. Moving through this. What the hell? Hold on. Is that the oldest Indian dude? Oldest Asian dude in the world? That got to be the oldest Asian dude. Homie, 107 years old. Sitting there by them poppies. What's all this?
Driving north on Larrabee, 60 miles an hour. I pulled his car over and asked him to produce his driver's license, and he had none. I immediately arrested him and searched him, and on his person, I found a bag of white powder that has since been analyzed by the crime laboratory.
Mr. Stubbins, you hear what your lawyer just said?
Yes, I did.
And do you still know that on this plea of guilty, this court is going to send you from 3 to 7 years in a state penitentiary?
Yes, sir. I do.
3 to 7 years for what? For the white powder? Was it cocaine? What was it? Man, y'all ain't those shit.
Another youth sent to prison on a drug of his life for illegal possession of a narcotic. The price to society and the taxpayers, thousands of dollars a year to keep him in prison. But despite strict and often punitive drug laws, the use of drugs in recent years has spread swiftly, almost like a tidal wave, to all parts of the country.
Yeah, those were some high people, bro. Those the fuck got clubs, though.
Years has spread swiftly, almost like a tidal
Dancing a whole bunch of church
wave
gowns
to
and
all
shit.
parts of the country. Drugs are being tried by many teenagers and by young people scarcely out of grade school. By people from all classes, crossing all social lines, in cities, middle-class suburbia, and small towns nearly everywhere.
Okay, it's drugs. Drugs is tried by everybody. Hey,
it
Lou,
seems as
bro,
though
you
the
ain't telling
college
us
kids,
nothing,
the
bro.
middle-class kids in this country
It's good.
suddenly discovered marijuana in the mid-'60s, the early '60s. And up until that time, marijuana was used almost exclusively for Negroes, Puerto Ricans, and jazz musicians. And, you know,
Yo, your fucking mom, bro. Your fucking mom, bro.
and up until that time, marijuana...
Hold on.
The college kids, the middle-class kids in this country suddenly discovered marijuana in the mid-'60s, the early '60s.
Yo, this whole ass nigga, bro. This whole ass nigga said basically what he basically said was no white people smoked weed before the '60s. It was all black people, Puerto Ricans, and jazz musicians. Your fucking uncle, bro. Your uncle was the jazz musician.
Kids in this country suddenly discovered marijuana in the mid-'60s, the early '60s. And up until that time, marijuana was used almost exclusively by those Puerto Ricans and jazz musicians. And, you know, who gave a damn about them? So that we could have all kinds of repressive laws and nobody would...
Jazz musician. See, that's why, yo, your dad was a fucking jazz musician. You was a hoe, bruh.
Bother with these people or even look at the laws. But all at once, Mrs. Murphy's kid from the suburbs, who was attending a prominent university, gets busted for marijuana. And I can tell you from personal experience, I've had medical students, law students, kids going to scientific institutions on national science grants. I've had all kinds of people who have been arrested for marijuana violations. And when this happens, suddenly our society starts to become aware of a problem, so-called.
That's yo, homie ain't lying, bro. That's what happened with the fucking fentanyl and all that shit, bro. That shit start killing white kids, and then you know what I mean, they start like, oh, now we gotta do something about the shit. When crack was around this bitch killing black people, motherfuckers ain't give a fuck. Heroin went wild, killing Latino, motherfuckers ain't care, bro.
The hippies, perhaps more than any other social phenomenon, have epitomized the drug issue. Nearly, call it what you will, pot, grass, hemp, or Mary Jane, it is the common denominator of the shared drug experience.
Weed is shared by bad people, bro. Bad people smoke weed, bro. And weed is the equalizer, bro. Believe it or not, bro, you could get a skinhead and a pro-black motherfucker together to smoke weed, bro, and talk about their differences.
Straight society has also many as 10 to 20 million Americans have tried marijuana. Not everyone, however, goes along with the drug experiment. But there are those who may try LSD or heroin, or liquefy their kicks in a hot spoon.
Yeah, nah. We ain't okay with that, though. We don't okay that.
A fast jolt of speed, one of the amphetamines, is good for a 6-hour surge. Psychological dependence often follows, from which withdrawal can be a serious problem.
Speed gets you on for 6 hours? 6 hours just running? Running up and down the street for 6 whole hours? Yeah, I don't need that, man.
Why does the person turn up? It's a highly complex question with no one answer. For some, it's the search for new thrills. For others, to be one of the crowd. Or a flamboyant gesture of defiance towards society.
So, you say a flamboyant gesture of defiance against society and then show the worst looking projects in America. Fucking uncle, bro.
And the ghetto, who have been beaten to their knees by the sheer poverty. A drug like heroin can represent a last desperate bid for freedom. The use of drugs began to increase considerably among the echoing streets of such areas as New York's teeming Harlem following World War II.
That's Harlem?
When I first came to East Harlem in 1948, it was primarily a large 18 community. For our part, as far as the kids or the adolescents were concerned, it was constant warfare. There were many, many gangs. And the ironic thing is that the only thing that united Italians and Puerto Ricans together was the use of drugs.
Married, sort of couldn't meet up with the responsibilities that I had taken on, and sort of felt the need to escape from these. My first marriage, I've been married twice, has only lasted about 4 years, with continuously using drugs. I had 2 children. Right after my first marriage broke up, I was immediately married again. In fact, my first marriage broke up through meeting this other woman. I went along for about 8 months not using drugs, and finally I come back to getting the feelings of, trying to escape again. And I started using drugs 8 months after my second marriage.
But the main problem in the city
is
environment. I would say that the good majority of the people that go on to heroin go on as a result of their environment. the people they know, their friends, the ready availability to obtain it, and so forth. I started to use it. I started to sniff it just to be part of the group. I started to use it while I was in school. And one day I woke up and I was addicted. You know? I woke up and I was very sick, and I didn't know what was bringing it about. But I did know that as soon as I took some heroin through my I felt normal.
And once a follower is on heroin, it may be
So hold on. So you start on a Tuesday, and then 7 months go by, and you ain't even know that it was.
Start on narcotics, I would say, at any age, really, of course, and within a matter of 3 to 6 months, starting out at about $4 or $6 a day, you can work its way up to a $100 a day habit. I was using about over $100 a day. Everything I would get was to go through my arms.
Ultimately, of course, most drug addicts end up in prisons or hospitals, pathetic fragments of their former selves, or in overcrowded psychiatric wards, sometimes the result of an experiment with LSD, acid, or with one of the amphetamines.
Most people I know are not speed freaks.
Yo.
They're meth heads. They can make
Yo.
it.
Yo, he's not lying about bro. I got a homie, bro, that try some shit on a random Thursday. That nigga ain't been the same, bro. And this is fucking 18 years. This nigga been walking the streets, kind of zombified and shit. Yeah, it's crazy, bro. I'm about to get. So I said I gotta get some of my homies on here so that y'all know that when I be saying to y'all, ain't no bullshit.
Giving the guy too much. I was so close to being an A-head. Hey, when I was young, years ago, we had a set down here. Got his sanity left. I know that a lot of people think that junkies, addicts,
that goddamn punch buggy,
dressed as hippies with beads and flowers in their hair. But it isn't true of all of them. Peter was very much a boy who liked to wear nice clothes, was always clean.
There are helpless other victims of the drug experience, those close to the youth who outwardly conforms, but who conducts the pilgrimage secretly, and by his very secrecy avoids detection until it is too late.
He was always dependable about being home on time at night, 11:30, which wasn't late. But during all this period, we later found he was on drugs, and shortly after his 20th birthday, he died of an overdose of heroin.
And sometimes battle lines are formed behind a well-to-do suburban facade between parent and child.
I tried messaging, which I liked, which I became very addicted to. And then from there, the actual suicide attempts have been in the last 6 or 7 months, the real ones. All the attention I got, I was sent to a psychiatrist who taught me how to play chess at age 9. I wouldn't talk to him. So then my parents got quite upset because of the money they were spending. So then I tried again. They took me away from the psychiatrist for a while and changed schools on me. And then there, several more attempts like swallowing aspirin, cutting my wrist, which doesn't work because blood coagulates and so forth. I called my parents and I was addicted to amphetamine bisulfate crystals, which is that you shoot and it's crystal. You know what that is. And I was addicted. I wanted to come home. I do it. I conform to your standards, your rules, so forth. Go to LSUNO, be a perfect model of everything. And they said, no, you upset the family, and sent me off to Oregon. And I withdrew 5 days, cold turkey, on a Greyhound bus going to Oregon.
Methadone, LSD.
That's a crazy ass story, bruh. That lady need help. She ain't need to go to Oregon.
The heroin. Their use, but one is the great leveler. In the hippie cults, it's part of the movable drug scene, international and worldwide in acceptance.
The weed is the shit, bruh.
A tradition of centuries of empire and revolution. And more recently, the birthplace of the hippie, and with him, a whole new drug culture. Drugs became popular among the British youth and the world's youth after different pop groups began taking drugs. The hippie phenomenon has spread to many countries. It's a constant ebb and flow of young people on the move. London, Paris, Rome, Istanbul, dropouts, drifters. There are also the curious adventurers in certain instances. No,
like I know there's weed in Europe and shit, but like besides like Amsterdam, but you don't really hear like motherfuckers in London being smoked and shit. Like, don't y'all niggas go to pubs?
One label can be pinned on all. In Rome, they gather at the Spanish steps. In Istanbul, there is another youth capistrano, Yeners, which, among other things, is an international clearinghouse of information about drugs. These gathering places are United Nations indoor. Young travelers come from Melbourne, London, Stockholm, and in ever-increasing numbers from New York.
Is these spots still working? Like, can we go to urinals right now?
An endless procession through the Holy Land. They huddle for comfort in the caves on the island of Crete. Why do they wonder? For some, undoubtedly, it's the adventure of youth. A chance for a once-in-a-lifetime odyssey and a sample of the fires of spring. For many, it follows in the footsteps of tradition. The Continental Grand Tour, on which many a youthful scion of the 19th century was sent abroad to broaden his mind. Today, it may demand a pilgrimage to the mystic repositories of age-old wisdom. Objectives, or what may pass for them, become 4,500 feet, particularly when the company is good and the roach pipes are lit.
As in the roach pipes?
For some, unfortunately, the searching is often aimless. A thin meat is
Like, why they gotta be
to escape
trying
responsibility.
to make that shit
They
like
remain as lost
religious,
as when they
bro? You
began.
can't just go there just to smoke, bro. I'm not trying to
An
go on no
experiment with the drug culture
pilgrimage. I'm just
abroad
trying
can
to
also turn into a nightmare,
smoke.
a sudden, harsh confrontation with strictly enforced laws. Literally hundreds of Americans are incarcerated in foreign prisons today for using, selling, or merely being in possession of a few grams of marijuana. That can mean an automatic minimum sentence of up to 6 years with no parole in a prison that has improved little since medieval days.
Right.
In the United States,
you
too,
don't want
the
to
use of
be
marijuana
booked
can also bring
somewhere
eventual
that's not
confrontation with
here.
the law.
Unless you in like
In some states, it's mere possession
Finland
has
or
brought on a minimum
Switzerland.
sentence of 2 years, while selling has carried a maximum sentence of 40. The federal law was liberalized in 1970, and there's a trend toward modification of present state laws.
How much weed
But
is
thousands
that?
of youth have been arrested and sent to prison for years because a pocket contained a few marijuana cigarettes. Youth has its complaints, too.
They've been known to plant things on you, like if you're in a place like, say, the 60s, they'll plant something in your pocket if they want you. And they don't even have to find something. They could find an empty matchbox, and by the time it gets to the lab, it's full of gas.
The scene is New Orleans, but the complaint remains the same. Why do the adults put us down? They protect their own thing, drugs like coffee, cigarettes, and synthetic crutches that range from sleeping pills and tranquilizers to Benzedrine. And most of all, liquor. Many a young person is quick to cry hypocrisy.
Nationally, really, the marijuana law nationally, it's just all companies to keep their thing going. I mean, who drink it? They had grass.
I think that is true though, bro.
Federal law
Because
has made possession of marijuana a misdemeanor and the Prevention and Control Act of
we hard, bro.
which of course is far more serious. The penalties possession
Here,
can bring up to
Buzz.
a year in prison, or a $5,000 fine, or both. A second or additional offense is punishable with up to 3 years behind bars, and a maximum fine of $10,000, or both. State treatments as strict ever, mere prisoner is a felony. It confronts the offender with the same severe, inflexible penalty handed out for possession of a hard drug such as heroin. That can mean a mandatory minimum sentence of 2 years and as much as 40 years. And the sale of a thin single
that
pack of
nigga
heroin to a
is
minor
some-
can in one state mean the death penalty. But despite
That nigga's
stiffer
in a
laws
bad
and tougher
way, and
law
he fucking with
enforcement,
him.
the sale and use of illegal drugs has sharply increased throughout the country, particularly in the past decade. There are now an estimated
Is that a condom? What the
100,000
fuck was
heroin
that?
addicts in New York City. The actual number throughout the United States may exceed 200,000. It's become obvious to many observers that stiff laws and harsh punishment cannot by themselves stem the increasing tide of drug use.
Little tiny gun. I think
Fines
I
have
had
been
one
raised
like
for
that. It
better
was a
control for the
25.
mass flow of illicit drugs into the United States, much of which passes through New York's teeming waterfront. A former federal narcotics commissioner has said,
New York was
"The mass
always
flow
where
of
the-
hard
where
drugs
the
into the United
shit
States
came
would
in
not be
at."
stopped even by the collective enforcement of the customs inspectors, all the Treasury agents, the FBI, and the combined strength of all our nation's armed forces. As much as 3 tons of pure heroin is smuggled into the United States every 12 months. It's considered a good year if a few hundred pounds is intercepted. The source of it all is centuries to the secretion for miraculous painkillers and also for one of the world's most demoralizing vices. It is scientifically known as Papaver somniferum, grown in virtually every tropical country of the world. Its milky fluid was squeezed out for human enjoyment as far back as 4000 BC on the shores of the Mediterranean.
What do you do
Arab
with
and
that
Persian
shit?
traders later introduced the mystic wonders of the poppy to other lands. By the 16th century, India was cultivating it. In the 17th century, the Chinese discovered the delights of smoking it. Millions of Chinese were thrust into moral and physical degradation. Then in the 19th century, a refinement, a relatively chemical process transformed raw opium into morphine base, which has been for medical doctors and their patients now. Another German refinement. From morphine base came the derivative heroin. The poppy's impact now could be funneled straight into the central nervous system, and the world's prisons and hospitals would be crowded with patients who experimented with this man-made derivative of the poppy. Its astronomical profits have made heroin
That's
the world's
crazy,
number
bro.
one illicit
Science
commodity.
fucking people
A deck
up.
of heroin sold on a metropolitan sidewalk is the final transaction in a long series of closely guarded clandestine operations. Turkey remains the principal source of the raw material opium. The opium is processed into morphine base, sometimes in Turkey, other times in Syria or in Beirut, Lebanon. French smugglers control the Lebanese market. They've been associated with all sorts of illicit international rackets for many years. The Lebanese sell the morphine base to the smugglers. The smugglers,
That shit
predominantly
can't
French
be-
Corsicans, who have been in the traffic for many years, arranged for the illicit
It
importation
can't
of the
be
morphine
good to
base
be
into
around
France.
that shit.
Marseille is the capital of the Corsican underworld for all of France.
Like if
Chemists
you
in
around that
Marseille
shit,
convert morphine
refining
base
that
into
shit,
heroin,
that shit.
the most difficult step in the entire chain of operations. Skilled chemists are not easy to find. Of raw opium, about 22 pounds, for $350 on the black market. Through conversion, it is reduced to 1 kilo of heroin, now worth $3,500. Secret arrangements are made to smuggle the heroin to its markets, such as the United States, one of the most highly profitable of all. Smuggling is an art, and the Corsicans are among the world's finest practitioners. The
What do they
automobile
do?
is one of their favorite carriers. There's
What do
hardly
they
a
do?
part in it that has not contained a prize shipment of heroin. Besides
They-
such
they
popular eastern ports such as
open
New York,
up the whole
there are
car and
thousands of
fill that
miles
whole
of
shit up with
sparsely
heroin.
inhabited border.
Good
with
lord,
Mexico,
bro, they
the
was
second
doing that
major
shit in the
entry
way
source for
back.
illicit drugs into the United States. Through this one port of entry alone, San Isidro, 6.5 million vehicles enter the United States each year. It's obviously impossible to search everyone thoroughly.
Put
Nonetheless,
Boogie Green.
quite a few shipments of drugs are confiscated.
We are in our vault in which all the marijuana and heroin which is seized is stored until the criminal case against the defendants is terminated by federal court action.
Boat and plane, too.
5,000 private yachts based in this area, all of which have the facility or capability of going to Mexican waters. This poses quite a threat, as do the increasing number of private aircraft crossing the international boundaries.
Once in America, heroin is
Dropping
blended with
it
milk
off,
sugar
huh?
and is cut at least one more time by the peddler himself. Its strength is now only 5%, normal for the retail market. Each packet or deck will sell for about $5. Thus, the original 22 pounds of raw opium, sold by a Turkish farmer for $350, is ultimately worth on the sidewalks of Manhattan over $410,000, and in a panic, $500,000. The battle against drugs goes
That's
on.
crazy.
The key words today are research, treatment, and
$300
rehabilitation.
turns to
Deep
$500,000.
in the heart of Kentucky's bluegrass country, research goes on in the federal government's Addiction Research Center at Lexington, perhaps the foremost name associated with the study of drug addicts. Highly sophisticated equipment is shedding new light on how drugs attack both the mind and the body, and thus point to new ways. Through experiments such as these, at Lexington have unmasked the addictive nature of specific drugs. Among other things, they have also made pioneering discoveries about what is probably today alcohol. New treatment programs have been launched both in and out of government. Here is the methadone approach, still experimental and not without its critics. Methadone,
Well, that's it,
a
that's
synthetic
it.
narcotic, is administered as a substitute for heroin. It eliminates the craving for heroin
That's
as well as
came
eliminating
along,
its use.
so.
Dr. Vincent Dole of New York University is a pioneer in its use.
So that we estimate, conservatively, I think, that every patient that we treat saves the community $40,000 a year in goods that are not stolen, in neighborhoods that are not spoiled, in families that are not abandoned.
Cyclazazine, a narcotic antagonist that effects of heroin on the central nervous system. There are other approaches too, such as person-to-person therapy based on the
Hold
self-help
on,
way.
bruh.
Perhaps the best known is that of Synanon,
Hold
a
on,
private
bruh.
residential therapy group founded and
They
managed by
been had some
ex-addicts in
shit
California.
that you
It
know what I mean they can give you and make you not feel the effects of fucking heroin. They should have been giving that to niggas so that you know what I mean. If you in a bad way, you can do all the shit you want. This shit ain't gonna get you high. You be tired as fuck just shooting yourself up.
has grown rapidly and has its offshoots in many parts of the country.
A residential therapeutic community, if I may explain it for a moment, is a 24-hour-a-day living, working situation in which people go through all kinds of emotional changes. And of course, it's an emotional problem, and that's what we approach.
There are also such other noted self and Exodus House, which may be located in the heart of a big city slum, where the action is. Living therapeutic environments, the addict first goes off drugs, and then is launched on the
What is this? Is the 70s? Do they still got them? Got these joints?
long, humbling road to an honest personal recuperation. It's gradually back to useful, often done with the help of the entire story of drugs illegal. It has ramifications across all areas of medicine and law, and social attitudes. Whatever the drug, pill, powder, or injectable liquid, still
Just at a bar doing that
the
shit?
laws and harsher penalties by themselves have clearly not stemmed the flood tide of drug use and abuse, and the growing numbers of human tragedies left in its wake. Essentially, the problem must be attacked in two ways. The first is that continued research and public enlightenment will increase our understanding of how to treat them, as well as providing ways to intercept potential addicts before they're addicted. Secondly, we must directly attack the illegal source, whether it is a man-made chemical derivative, or Indian hemp, a coca leaf, or a poppy growing on land. show that in each country there is a practical and profitable alternative to the drug harvest. In Baalbek, Lebanon, where 90% of the land was once planted with cannabis, marijuana, commercial crops are now grown which benefit mankind. And among other things, the French government has agreed to help combat the international traffic in heroin, much of which is refined in illicit French laboratories. Our knowledge about drugs...
These niggas is in bathrooms turning that shit over, bruh.
...has increased greatly in recent years. But more enlightenment is clearly needed by many people. Those of us who try the drug experiment must realize that we cannot create a better society by freaking out. And those of us, perhaps, must reach out and help with compassion and a real desire to understand, not only others, but ourselves as well. What we as adults have to do is to invite the youngsters to join our adult world and make it a better place.
Yo, this shit is the 70s, right? You hear how the end of that talking was, how it was like, we need to like come together on that type of shit. Yo, the world is not the same, bro. That shit, nobody talking about no togetherness and no shit like that nowadays, bro. That's not where the fuck we at in the world. All right, 1970 anti-drug, anti-narcotic addiction, education, film, the answers, understand that was that joint. Yo, before we slide right, I just recorded some shit this morning, bro, so we gonna jump into that. See what's going on album 77. Let's go, never leaving that out. Jump in real quick, man. I don't have no hook for this. I'm gonna have to try to put a hook on this song. Like butter on blunts. Rushes rolled up, put fire on front. Use trees for the smoke like I preserve food. The THC can persuade my mood. Dank on green, sometimes violet. Hoover's trying to smoke gets me violent. Splashing in the turps of the hydroponic. Me and Mary's think it's symbiotic. Too high up, I ain't never been there. I've been looking for the best weed on this sphere. Whole smoke in until I gotta breathe out. Dabs in every blunt, I never leave them out. Got a bunch of purple hues. 2 blunts help to get me vertical. Put a spliff in the mix that lighten me up. I never thought 1 blunt might be enough. Blunt at the blunt will keep me flying. Fame is down, only gets me tipsy. Always got 1 lit and extra with me. When I hit spaced out, that's where I chill. If I got weed to smoke, I probably will. Hold smoke in until I gotta breathe out. Dabs in every blunt, I never ever leave him out. That right there, Bird Club, that's the last drink I recorded. I'm gonna be working on some videos through the day and shit. Just posted the champagne review. So there's reviews posted up through like the 2nd week of March. We still gonna be dropping a lot more. We got a bunch to do, man. So they just stick around and shit. I'm gonna holler at y'all, man. With that, I'm Tulip Marley. I'm out. Bird Club. Flat.